there, friends. So let's briefly consider the context or the contents of the Prohibition amendments. The 18th Amendment, passed in 1919, went into effect after a year-long grace period in 1920. And what it said is that all intoxicating liquors could not be produced, transported, sold, or consumed for leisure in the United States, including through import and export. At least that's the official legal language and the way it's interpreted. Did it actually mean you couldn't drink at all, or that you couldn't make your own alcohol? Not necessarily, because the amendment itself didn't do anything. It contained, as most modern amendments do, an enforcement clause that directed Congress to draw up legislation outlining the rules for how prohibition would actually be enforced, what it meant, what was an intoxicating liquor. And so, in 1920, just as soon as that grace period to buy as much booze as you wanted went by, Congress passed the National Prohibition Act, or the Volstead Act, which would remain in effect until 1933. And what it did was prohibit the purchase, consumption, or sale of any alcoholic beverages containing more than 0.5% alcohol by volume. That's not very much at all. But there were already numerous exceptions to this. For instance, if you needed wines or other spirits for religious rituals or purposes, those were permitted under the Volstead Act. If you were a physician, a doctor, prescribing alcohol as part of a treatment plan, as many still did in the 1910s, you could produce and sell those spirits in very small quantities. If you had any alcohol before Prohibition went into effect, you could consume it at your leisure with no penalties. And if you were making spirits or alcoholic solutions that were never meant to be ingested by a human being, I'm talking here about like rubbing alcohol and industrial spirits, and not like insert your least favorite beer here. Those were perfectly available as well. But here's the thing, right? The Volstead Act was insanely unpopular, and as a result, it was effectively amended by other laws and regulations multiple times between its passage and the passage of the amendment which would ultimately do away with Prohibition in 1933. Including raising the minimum or the maximum alcohol content by volume to a whopping 4%, and creating carve-outs for people who grew their own wine or distilled certain types of beer in their own homes for personal use. So, Prohibition, not super popular, not very well liked at all from the time it was set into motion.